Good evening, everyone. No, I'm not changing the time that I post. I'm just trying to catch up. We were at St. Thomas the other day, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and I just had press to deal with this morning, and I had to rebook a venue, and there's a whole bunch to do. And here's some of the press. So if you're interested, I'm on July 15th, and I'm the first story. It's at 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and I'm not going to play it, but the link is in the description if you want to check it out. It's interesting. And at the end of our clip, Mr. Bourke, sorry if I've got that wrong, says we could fill 40 minutes with what he was saying about the CBC. And he said, I don't necessarily agree with him. And that's okay. We don't have to agree. We do not have to agree. But I would love to have you on my show and we can fill that 40 minutes and we can talk, or I'll come back on yours. It doesn't bother me either way. But I'd like to have that conversation. I'm interested in that. And not for anything other than I'm interested in an interesting conversation with somebody who either disagrees with me or has a difference of opinion that wants to get worked out. I'm interested. So get in touch if you're interested too. Interesting, right? Okay. Mr. Donald Trump, President Trump, is making America buy America. And CBC Business is reporting, quote, Trump makes Buy America rule more restrictive, demanding 75% U.S. components. So recently, tariffs were negotiated off of steel and aluminum. And I'll tell you a quick story about how Donald Trump solves problems before I finish this. Donald Trump wanted to put up a 50-foot flagpole in front of one of his resorts. I think it was in Scotland, but it could be Mar-a-Lago. I could be wrong. Anyway, he wanted to put up a 50-foot flagpole. And the municipality and the state and everybody said, no, can't do it. No, can't do it. No, there were no conditions that could be met that he could make this 50-foot flagpole. So Donald Trump, he could have a 30-foot flagpole. So he built a 20-foot hill. And he put his flagpole on a 20-foot hill. So he solves problems in ways that maybe you or I or other people don't necessarily see coming. And it's interesting. Really, the things that this man has been able to do just with media alone is worth watching. I mean, like him or dislike him, he gets the media to do what he wants. Interesting stuff. Okay, so CBC News is reporting U.S. policies which act as a barrier to Canadian businesses building on government projects are about to get more stringent. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Monday demanding that 75% of the value of any components in Made in America products must be sourced in the USA. That's an increase from 50% previously. So they just cut Canada's potential business in half. They just reduced it by 25%. So where previously we could bid on contracts that would be in the 50% range, right? So 50% Buy American, 50% you could have it made in Canada, and that's okay, or have Canadian steel or whatever it is. Now he just says, oh yeah, it has to be 75%. Right after the tariffs came off. Right? It's the same 20-foot hill, 30-foot flagpole. It's the same thing. He's got the tariffs either way. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He's making the money that he needs to make, and he's making the jobs that his constituents want, right? American steel makes American jobs, makes American manufacturing jobs. These are good jobs with generally low skill labor needed too. So yeah, like this guy's looked at the problem and done a good job solving it. It's not good for Canada. Don't make any mistake. I'm just explaining what's happening here. But I want you to understand that this is Donald Trump doing for his country what the president of his country should do. And the idea that Donald Trump should take care of Canada is false. Donald Trump is a partner. Sure, Donald Trump represents the United States and we have an historic friendship and we help each other because that's what nations that are partners like Canada and the United States do. But Donald Trump himself is a businessman fundamentally, and what he wants to do is enrich and help his people. And he's been very clear about that. His loyalty lies with the American people and the American flag. And if you haven't seen that over the last 3 years, well, you haven't been watching Donald Trump. You've been watching the news. So it's all of that plays into how you negotiate with him. And when your team walks in and focuses like a laser on tariffs while ignoring the rest of the package, Donald Trump does this and puts the Made in America up by 25%, thereby reducing Canada's ability to bid on those projects by 25% at least. All right, and I'm going to move on to the next story because it's also a Donald Trump story, but it also has to do with Canada. Why? Because Justin's weighing in on it. Oh, yeah, I know. We've got another couple of months of this. Donald Trump is tweeting, quote, this is over the weekend. This is July 15th. Oh, it's today. I thought it was over the weekend. Anyway, he says, we will never be a socialist or communist country. If you are not happy here, you can leave. It is your choice and your choice alone. This is about love for America. Certain people hate our country. They are anti-Israel, pro-Al-Qaeda, and comment on the 9/11 attack. Some people did something. Radical left Democrats want open borders, which means drugs, crime, human trafficking, and more. Detention facilities are not concentration camps. America has never been stronger than it is now. Rebuilt military, highest stock market ever, lowest unemployment, and more people working than ever before. Keep America great. And here is Donald Trump, and this is on the lawn, I believe, of the White House. He's answering questions. He's just finished a speech, and this is the Made in America celebration. So he's celebrating the 25% increase because it's good for Americans. It increases business. It means people can expand. They can be sure that if he's voted in 2020, that the policies continue, and they've got 4 good years at least before anybody comes and curtails that, right? Because 25% or every year, that's a big increase. That's a big increase. Government works in 5 and 10% increments. 25% is huge. That's a bludgeon. That's a bludgeon. That's a bloody nose for Canada, for real. Here's Donald Trump answering the question about that tweet that I've just read and kind of went back on the other track, on the steel track, but still, the tweet, they can leave. Here he is.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, you have any questions on how well our manufacturing business is doing, press? The press. Wow, that's a lot of press. Look. Well, I didn't mention names, and I didn't do that, but I will tell you, with our country, and I think everybody in this audience, these are great manufacturers, great workers in our audience, too. They brought a lot of their workers here. If you're not happy here, then you can leave. As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet, which I guess some people think is controversial. A lot of people love it, by the way. A lot of people love it. But if you're not happy in the U.S., if you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. Come back if you want. Don't come back. It's okay, too. But if you're not happy, you can leave.
And here, sorry for the Facebook notification there. Everybody's going to think their notification went off. Apologies. Anyway, here's the original tweet. This is the controversial tweet. This was sent on the 14th at 5:27 a.m. Donald Trump says, so interesting to see progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, then come back and show us how it's done? These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements! ! So that was the original tweet that was controversial and what the question was about. And the tweet I originally read, I apologize, that wasn't the controversial tweet. That was a tweet today that was clarifying his position here, I suppose. And Justin Trudeau has a response. Of course, CBC News is reporting, quote, Prime Minister Trudeau said that this sort of talk isn't welcome in Canada and that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Okay, you can all picture, and you pictured in your head, I pictured in my head, the head nod. You know what I'm talking about, right? The bobblehead, the wiggle of the head, and then the head nod. Head nod. We're going to watch just because I don't know.
Comments. That is not how we do things in Canada. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, and the diversity.
That's it. Is our strengthy, whatever it is. The last story today is Twitter. Twitter is a massive multinational company. And it has lobbying in the United States. They lobby the federal government to make policies that are beneficial to Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. And they work closely with the Canadian government. So does Google, so does Facebook, so do all these things. And it's really interesting what's happening on Facebook these days and on Twitter too, on these social networks. Today's story is not about Facebook, it's about Twitter. And City News is reporting Twitter taps Canada as test market for new hide tweet feature. Interesting, right? Twitter says it is launching an experiment in Canada today that will allow users in this country to hide replies to tweets on the social media platform. At what point is a massive multinational company that many people rely on as news and believe to be true, at what point does that multinational company have a responsibility to not filter and censor tweets? At what point should the experience be the same for all users? I think we might be hitting that point, because what they're doing is silencing people. Like maybe people who are candidates for federal election, who are just trying to speak with their competitors, for instance. Maybe people like that. Back to the article. The timing comes as social media platforms like Twitter have faced increasing government pressure to police their services better, particularly ahead of this fall's federal election. Users outside Canada will be able to see the feature and use it, but won't be able to use it themselves. The platform will indicate on a tweet any time a user decides to hide replies, and will allow users to see what's being hidden as a way to dissuade brands or politicians from overusing the feature. The company chose to test the new option in Canada before rolling it out elsewhere. Twitter isn't putting a timeline on when the experiment will end, but is keeping an eye on the timeline to the campaign's kickoff. It just seems like interference. And at what point Twitter's GDP is bigger than most countries. So at what point do we say, like, you need to either provide a similar or the same experience for all users? Everybody has the same ability to have their posts seen as other people, and not this unbelievably biased, incredibly obvious filter that's going on currently. And I don't understand how we can go 3 years with constantly hearing about Trump-Russia collusion and come to the end of that and just idly sit by while this giant multinational company walks in and monkeys with all of these filters and things, and doesn't allow people to be heard, but instead allows the people who, I don't know if they're being paid or if it's I'll wash your back, you wash mine. Like, I'll get you back in office if you make sure that the policies you pass are good for me. I don't know what's happening here. I don't understand why this is so hand in glove, but that's what it seems like. Maybe it's not foreign interference at all. Maybe this is Twitter doing what the Canadian government wants it to do. Maybe this is exactly why it's happening so quickly in Canada. It's incredible. Here is my campaign Twitter feed, and it's locked. And somebody said on Twitter, Maxime Bernier has had his pictures taken with some pretty bad characters. And I said, you want to play this game? Okay, let's talk about Dalgish. Let's talk about Invalgason. Let's talk about all of the people that Justin Trudeau has been photographed with. Let's talk about Boyle. You want to talk about people who people have been photographed with. You want to make political, hey, let's have this game. But I think you lose. That's paraphrased. I think we only get 200 odd characters nowadays, but I thought they lost. And then my Twitter was locked. And I've emailed them twice, and I believe this account was verified, and it's still locked. And if you see the notifications up here, this is my Canada Poly account. This isn't my account. It's not unlocked. I'm still locked out. This is in the midst of a pretty big political scandal for my city, and I can't speak to anybody about it. Not as me, because Twitter locked my account. And not just locked, I'm erased. I had multiple conversations on multiple threads with one of my competitors, Mr. Steve Dyck, and they're all gone. All of them. Everything is gone. Nobody can see anything of my tweets, and there's no indication they're there at all. So, is that okay with you? Are you okay with a multinational company like Twitter, full of SJW, Silicon Valley tech giants who maliciously police their staff for really very socialist and communist. They need to adhere to the ideology or they're removed. Look at Google and how they responded to the letter talking about the difference between men and women. And maybe women do this because X. And maybe it's not some big conspiracy. Maybe they're just doing what they want to do. And here's the science behind it. And that man was fired and vilified in the press. These are the people who are in charge of making sure our elections are, quote, fair, making sure that the discord is able to be served up in a way that the electorate can consume and make an informed choice when I'm silenced for doing nothing other than saying, hey, you want to play this game? I think your guy is worse than mine. Did he know that all those guys were pedophiles? No? Oh, okay. So I find it interesting that they want to play the game. I find it interesting that this multinational company is monkeying with our elections by changing the fundamental platform to favor certain people over other people and removing completely somebody from replies. People don't know about me, and they're not going to know about me because Twitter doesn't want them to. Is this okay with you? Call your MP. Call Lloyd. Ask him if this is okay. It's not okay with me. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. We believe in free speech. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm sick and tired of this trash. Have a wonderful evening.